Hi Tristan, I'm Lena, and my first question for you is I'm really interested in knowing how you first got involved with Stone Soup.
Oh, okay. My cousins and that family gave me a subscription to Stone Soup because they knew that I was kind of into writing and art when I was probably like 9-ish years old for my birthday. Um and so I've kind of been getting it ever since. But also, my friend's older sister got a piece of art published a couple years after I started getting the subscription. Um, and that sort of encouraged me to begin submitting things. And so that was sort of when I started really being involved.
Yeah. So would you say you're more into like submitting writing or art in the magazine, or do you do a mix of both? Because I know you mentioned your friend is an artist, or
Yeah, I've mostly stayed on the writing side. I did dabble in a little bit of poetry and got like a couple honor rolls for that kind of thing, but now I'm mostly just doing more novel, like long form fiction, short stories, that kind of thing.
yeah, that's definitely really cool. And I know I've seen a bunch of your writing on the Stone Soup website, and it is really amazing. I especially liked your stream of consciousness you did. It was published
Oh,
through the
yeah,
Writer
thank you.
Shop, so that was
Yeah.
really cool. So I also remember that over the summer you were involved with Stone Soup's writing workshop. I was in it too, and you produced some really amazing pieces. So what would you describe as the most useful or interesting technique or type of writing you have learned while at that class?
Well, I think it's actually what you just mentioned, which was stream of consciousness writing, because it was sort of a very authentic sort of idea that I've never heard of before, and I didn't really realize that was a legitimate way to write, like without a filter like that. I know that a lot of people draft that way sometimes, and I've tried it, but it was really cool to see that as like a finished work.
Yeah, definitely. That was a very interesting workshop as well. You
Hmm.
did a really good job with that one.
Yeah.
So, also, where do you get your inspiration? I know you recently, last year, your novella, The Other Realm, won first place in the Stone Soup Book Contest. So, where do you get your inspiration for novellas and novels such as that? And specifically for The Other Realm, did your inspiration come from for that book?
Um, I think that generally I get a lot of inspiration from other art forms, like, going to museums and like theater is a huge one, going to performances of musicals and plays. Um, and so that's usually where I get a lot of inspiration, but when I was writing The Other Realm, we had just gone into the pandemic. And so I was sort of shut off from all of that. And I think that because I was shut off from sort of other people's art to draw from, I ended up sort of recycling things from older works that I had done. And I sort of always do that, but it was sort of more prominent in this piece. And then for characters, probably, uh, I think that I pull a lot of inspiration from other people's appearances that like people I know. But other than that, a lot of it is just taken from thin air because they sometimes the characters, their personalities don't really come out to me when I'm first start writing, and they'll become much more vivid later, and then I can lean into that as I continue through the process.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that too, drawing from other people's personalities and appearances. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in what you said about drawing from theater and kind of more musical arts. Is there a specific play or theater production that has specifically inspired you that you can like remember? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. We have a thunderstorm here. So
Oh, that's really cool. That's hilarious because there's like a heat wave going on over here. Um, but let's see. I don't know if there's one specific like theater performance, but I think whatever has like really good acting and actors who seem that they're very into their roles, I really just enjoy that, and I'm able to sort of pull from how real everything seems there. Because I feel like I do a little bit of acting through my school, and I've noticed that it is actually really hard to like be in a character for the duration of a performance in such a real way. And so it's just really cool to see people who can do that and then be able to sort of feed off of the emotions that they seem like they are actually feeling.
Yeah, I am not an actor, but I definitely could imagine that being a very real thing, and it's definitely a cool approach to writing. So,
Mm-hmm.
speaking of inspiration, our characters such as Azalea Morroe, she was my favorite in the book. I really loved reading about her, and she seemed very real to me. Are they inspired by people in your own life? I know you touched on that briefly earlier, but are those characters, is there anybody specific you can name that the characters in the other realm are inspired by?
Ooh, okay. I'm really glad that you like Azalea Morroe because she is very fun. I do like her. And also, let's see. I think that normally when I am sort of pulling from other people, to create a character, I tend to lean towards people who I don't see very often, because if the way I sort of view them becomes a little bit like muddled over time, like I saw them at a camp one time and then I haven't seen them in a year, then it's easier to sort of make a character out of some sort of shell of them, but then be able to fill it with other things. And so usually it's people who I don't frequently interact with, but who for some reason were memorable to me. Like maybe I admired them, but from afar.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And when talking with some other writers, I've kind of found just the opposite, that they tend to go with people who they really know and draw off of their personality. But that's cool that you kind of stick with that form of detachment so you can fill them in. That's very
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, also, has writing always been a part of your life? How long have you been writing for? Has it kind of always been something that was there for you, or have you recently started? When did you kind of pick up that hobby or passion?
Hmm. Well, I think I've definitely been very interested in sort of writing and expressing stories for my entire life. Even before I could write, I would like make up stories and just like think about characters and things. But I've been writing for quite a long time since I was probably like 8 or 9, or maybe when I was 7, I wrote my first like little book, and I think we got it turned into like one of those little Shutterfly, like book pieces where you can take pictures of pages and then put them in. Um, but I remember that I like have always really been interested in sort of creating little stories with like little characters and just exploring different ideas of things that seem very foreign to me. I think that a lot of what I write about is like sort of an attempt to discover more things about the world, because I've heard people say like write what you know, but I think a lot of the writing that I do is not what I know. It's like maybe it's drawn from things I know, but it's things I want to know more about.
Yeah, kind of that element of using writing as an exploration through the world. And I think that's something
Mm-hmm.
all of us at Stone Soup can really relate to.
Yeah, yeah.
So, also, it was the other realm. Was the other realm was it your first novella or long form fiction piece?
I'm pretty sure it was. I think I've definitely like gone and filled notebooks with stories and things before this. Um, but it's definitely been the one that I've been the happiest with and felt like was the most polished, and I spent the most time on it. And because I feel like a lot of other ones I would write one, I would like write a draft and then never come back to it. And so I feel like this was my first time really digging into a piece and just like making it as refined as it can be.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So it was your first published long form fiction piece,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, cool. So, what would you say the biggest challenge you faced when writing your novella, The Other Realm? What was that? So, kind of that moment where you felt the closest to giving up, or your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Okay. I think that when I was sort of like muddling around in the middle of the novel, it was the worst for me because I started it and I was really excited, and then like I did my outline and I finished a draft, and then I would I just had to go through over and over again and refine it to try to make it something that could be closer to being published. Because I was planning to submit it to this contest. from the beginning. And so I think just going through it again and again, and then sometimes I would read something that I had written or a note that I had made and think to myself, what even was this, like what, I don't know where I'm supposed to go from here. And so definitely I would get writer's block in the middle, and I'd just sit there and like stare at the computer screen without typing anything for like an hour. And then eventually, sometimes like my mom would come in and be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, I don't know." And so then she would tell me like, you need to get on this, like start writing again. And so I'd do it. And so I think having support of family members who are also like able to give me resources, like people I could talk to and who would maybe be interested in reading it, that was really helpful for me to get out of those tight spots. But definitely sort of like the muddy middle was difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I the revision process, I know you mentioned that it is very difficult. I would say that's
Mm-hmm.
probably the hardest part for me of writing long form fiction. And I'm not into it, but it's very hard to go back and put yourself in the mindset you were a year or
Yeah,
6 months ago.
yeah, definitely.
So, what would you say? What advice would you now give to yourself then during those periods when you were going through that writing block, or as you said, like that muddy mindset and you just had trouble continuing?
Hmm. I would say probably I should have gone back and read my favorite books more, actually. Which is something that I didn't utilize at all, but I think really would have helped because, it's sort of, for me, like reading a favorite book is a really comfortable place to be. And so I feel like it is going to sort of restore my confidence that, like, this is something that I feel like I can do from the mental space where I am when I'm reading a book that I know and everything is sort of predictable. And then I'm in the right, like, emotional and mental space to go back in and try to start writing again.
Yeah. So that's definitely a really cool technique about looking back at books and one I might try to utilize in the future because I never would have thought of
Mm-hmm.
that. So, what would you say on a happier note? What would you say your favorite part about writing The Other Realm was? What was a particularly like happy moment in the writing process that you can remember?
Hmm. Well, I think I really started enjoying it when, or I mean, I enjoyed it through the whole thing, but I had this real, like, sort of spark of joy when the characters really started like appearing really vividly to me, because I feel like at first, usually when I start a novel, I have an idea of, like, just the bare bones of the character, and they start to fill themselves in as I go along. But usually then later, like maybe it'll be in the second draft, or the third even, that there'll be some sort of thing, not necessarily a primary trait, but just something that I can really lean into, that I know that the character is this, like, this is how they're going to react to a certain situation. And then once I started knowing that, it almost felt like the characters were going to write themselves, and I was just kind of along for the ride, and it got really fun.
Yeah, it's just a really cool feeling. I definitely agree to kind of get to know their personalities. You're honestly getting to know them as you write them, and it's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So, how long did it take you to write The Other Realm from start to finish, the entire book? And I'm not going to include the editing and revising process because I know, as we talked about before, that does take a little time, but just a rough
Yeah.
draft start to finish.
Okay. Let's see.
It
I
doesn't have to be
think,
exact, just approximate.
yeah, I think that a lot of the time that I spent on the other realm was actually spent reworking it, because I would like start with a first draft, and half of the characters like didn't exist, or like I remember I looked back just recently from my first draft to whatever draft I ended with. It was probably like the sixth or seventh draft, and the novel grew by like 12,500 words. So it was like there was a lot in between. And I'm also sort of the kind of person who likes to think about an idea a lot before I actually put it down on paper. Um, but I think from like outlining to finish and to submitting it, which was pretty close to the deadline. It probably took about 9 months. It's like my baby.
Yes. Wow, that is definitely a lot of commitment from start to finish. And as you mentioned, the revision process too, and the whole process of submitting it. So that's definitely a lot of dedication, and you should be very proud.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
also, what would you say is the primary thing you want readers to take away from the other realm? So, kind of like that message, general theme of the book.
Ooh, okay. I mean, I feel like this isn't a very deep one, but I would always say that like adventures are good. Like this adventure, I feel like in the other realm didn't start out as a good thing, and it was sort of a mess in the beginning, and it stayed a mess for most of the way through. But I think that the fact that they went on this adventure and they did this journey and just accomplished this ended up being a really good thing. And so I think that like just trying new things and like taking that leap and going on the adventure across the desert in the car you don't know how to drive is always a good thing. Is a good thing.
Yeah, so kind of putting your best foot forward and taking those risks. And I think that's
Yeah.
something we can all really use in our lives. And it
Mm-hmm.
definitely does come through in the book.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
back to the theme of kind of Stone Soup and you as a writer for Stone Soup, if you could tell somebody who is new to the organization about Stone Soup, what would you say?
Okay, I think I would say that it is just so much fun. I think I have just really enjoyed, like, each month I get this copy of a little magazine in the mail, and I open it up, and it has all these um works just from all of these kids who are like my age or younger, and sometimes they're written by me, but mostly they're not, and they're all so amazing and inspiring, and they're all unique, and they all are really really good, and all these people are so talented, and it just always makes me happy to like know that there's people out there who are creating all this amazing stuff. um and I would also say, like, submit your stuff, like, even if you don't think it's good, and like just make it as best as you feel like you can, and then submit it. And even if it doesn't get anywhere, like, take it back and polish it, and or make another thing and do it again. Just like keep trying and keep going, because I know I got rejected so many times from Stone Suit before I actually got anything going. And that it always does turn out for the better. Like, you can't really lose anything from submitting, so go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I feel like that all kind of goes back to what you said before about what you want readers to take away from the other realm. That initiative to start that adventure has to be there for you to have the adventure. And that
Mm-hmm.
applies to submitting to Stone Soup and putting your work out there in general. So that's all the questions I have for you tonight. But thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank
I feel
you.
like I really learned a lot about you as a writer, and like we all got such a good behind the scenes glimpse into your new book, The Other Realm. So if anyone watching this, if you want to read Tristan's new novella, The Other Realm, and it placed first in the most recent Stone Soup book contest, and it will be available for purchase starting September 1st. It's available to pre-order through the Stone Soup online store, which I would recommend doing. It is very good. So, and I think that's all. But thanks again and have a nice night.
Yeah, you too. I'll see ya.
Bye,
Bye,
Tristan.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
It was
you.
so nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.